part of the system that has existed there over some time. What Professor Chinoy just now was saying is have now created a system which did not exist. During the early years or during the phase when the Cultural Revolution was taking place. So now you have a system in place where a change in leadership does take place. You should have been at the state level, you should have served, and you should have been leader. As to whether or not his or her achievements merit a place going up and becoming a leader at the national level. So I would say that yes, we as outsiders do not know too much about what is going on as it is going on. But it's not so entirely secretive that nothing is known about the process or about...
Right. So, Commodore Bhaskar, not many, even within China, the average Chinese does not know what change is going to take place and what's going on within these within closed doors. But what are your impressions from China? We understand you've just returned from Beijing, and it's a hot topic here. It's a hot topic in other countries, a leadership change. But what is the impression that you gathered in China?
Let me put it this way, Amandra, that it was more coincidence that I was in Beijing over the last 3 days. And my first day was exactly a week away from the leadership change on the 8th of November. So on the first, I made it a point to walk through Beijing and talk to various people who I thought might like to share.
Welcome back to Public Forum. We are talking about the leadership change in China that will be announced when the National Congress opens November 8th. We continue the discussion with Professor Kamal Mitra Chinoy. Professor Chinoy, before we talk about the new leaders, who are these people? But before that, the kind of headlines that we saw in the month of September that popped up over a span of 2 weeks about the disappearance of Xi Jinping when he disappeared from public life, and there was a lot of speculation about his health and his whereabouts. Then there was also another controversy surrounding Bo Xilai, who was ousted from his party's leadership following a murder trial of his wife, etc. And also the latest New York Times allegation about Premier Wen Jiabao's wealth and the wealth that his family has accumulated over the years. What do you make of these various scandals that have hit the Chinese leadership change?
Well, if we were Indians, we'd welcome them because we have many more. And I think it is quite clear that something very akin, I think identical to a capitalist transition is on.
Fierce manner.
All right, well, on that note, it's time for us to slip into yet another break in the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back when we discuss the implications for the world at large and for India in particular of this leadership change. Discussing in Public Forum this evening, you can call us on our toll-free numbers that are 1800115313 and 1800115314. Professor Chinoy, continuing with you, talking about this reshuffle, the man at the center of it all is going to be the future President Xi Jinping, and we know that he is the son of a revolutionary. He's a princeling who currently holds the #2 spot in the country's government. But what more can you tell us about him, and what kind of change can we expect him to bring in the way China looks at the world at large?
Well, he's a princeling with a difference because his father was arrested by Mao and was in jail for quite some time. So he's not, he's not from such a privileged family. But what we must remember is that no matter what the Chinese system calls itself, it is a full-blown capitalist system, and therefore leaders will amass wealth.
China is giving threat to India in 1962. We all know what was happened in the Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh, and the last and final is that the Chinese electronics goods is coming to our country, and our electronics industry is not getting the market for this Chinese. So how will India maintain relation with China by strategically and by and on the other hand by economic? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Commodore Bhaskar, would you like to take up the question?
Mr. Pratik, as far as the bilateral relationship is concerned, for India, the change of leadership is not going to make any significant change as far as India's own orientation is concerned. India has a very stable relationship with China in Beijing with the leadership, and my own reading is that there will be no major change or disruption as far as the transition from Mr. Hu.
Particularly India.
Well, I would say that for the current leadership which is coming in, Mr. Xi Jinping and his team, this is a fairly, I would say, challenging time, largely because of their dependence on manufacturing and China being the workshop of the world. They know internally that they have to sustain these 9 to 10 would be the primary imperative. Now, as far as the Hu Jintao regime is concerned, the last 10 years, if you do a quick review, there's no doubt that Chinese GDP made some very impressive strides. It almost, tripled in that particular period.
Okay, Professor Chinoy, many are saying that China in the coming years will start to look west, and the first country would, of course, be India. How do you think China's engagement with India is likely to change?
Well, I don't think China will look in any one direction. Chinese look everywhere. They consider themselves a world power, matching other world powers, and is flexing themselves in the South China Seas and elsewhere.
But in what way do you think China is going to change in the coming years?
Well, I think very clearly, as Professor Chinoy was just saying, and I think what Rudra Bhaskar was also mentioning, there's a certain global role aspiration. And today the Chinese have the wherewithal, the material wherewithal, to be able to exercise that. Historically, any economically strong country eventually also tends to become militarily strong. Question really to my mind is whether it happens in this decade or the coming decade. What are the kind of values that the Chinese would bring to the international community? Would they have the same values that have governed the world since the Second World War, say in political terms, human rights, freedoms, democracy, rule of law, in economic terms, free markets, not even if it's not entirely free, but mixed economy, regulated economy, that sort of thing. And insofar as social and other sectors are concerned, whether they would be looking